Welcome back to the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery. And today I'm with a friend who's a dynamite force for good, a part of the Maxwell Leadership team. Listen, he's not just a part of the team, he's the executive vice president of Maxwell Leadership. This guy spearheads the largest coaching organization in the world. 60,000 plus coaches around the world at Maxwell Leadership. They're involved in 130 different countries. Man, this guy has energy for days, an infectious spirit. He's a dynamic speaker. If you've been to any of the Maxwell Leadership events, you will see this guy on the front of the stage, speaking, emceeing, connecting with people. I know he is such a blessing to the Maxwell Leadership ecosystem. He's been a blessing to me. He's about to bless us today with an amazing message on today's podcast. The author of the new book, From Drift to Drive. And I love your subtitle, brother, like High Achiever's Guide to Breaking the Chains of Complacency. Yeah. I want to learn more about that today. Welcome to the show, Chris Robinson. Thanks for being here.
Oh, man. Yeah, Jordan, thanks so much for having me, man. So excited to see you. I love your infectious energy and smile everywhere you go. You're adding value to people, man. So we're walking in the same heartbeat. So I love being here with you today.
Well, I said this to you outside of this conversation. We were just prepping for, today's conversation, and you are like the perfect guest for this podcast. This is a leadership podcast. We talk faith openly. And I think we have a lot of leaders who know what it feels like to be complacent. And I've been complacent. I've had seasons of my life where I go, man, I'm just not where God needs me to be or wants me to be. And I want to reignite the fire, as you say, and walk and live on purpose. And so you're going to help us do that today. First question, Chris, why did you write the book From Drift to Drive?
Yeah. Well, originally I had no intention of writing the book. I was hanging out with our friend Rory Vaden, and I was really going to go meet with him to see, hey, could he add value to the Maxwell members? But I engaged in the process and kind of played along and was kind of going through the motions. And, they began to ask me questions about, well, Chris, if you were to write a book, we know you don't want to, but if you were to write a book, what would you write on? And I said, well, I'd really like to talk about underperformance. And, that was something I was passionate about. And they said, okay, we began to dig around a little bit deeper. And we said, well, what's the root cause of underperformance? And we went through a series of different words, and we landed on the word complacency. And man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just fell in love with that word complacency, because that really is the root cause of all underperformance. And so that next day, they said, well, Chris, if you're trying to solve the problem for underperformance, what ways have you done this in your life? And so I began to think about it that night, and I began to think about all these areas of my life where I have achieved, where I have done well, where I've got results. And I came back, and I was actually sitting on a bench waiting on an Uber to come pick me up. And then the 7-step framework just revealed itself within seconds. So I run back into the office there where everybody was at, and I said, hey, I've got the framework, the pillars for this book, and I want to write these things out. Wrote them out. Everybody stops. We've got goosebumps, and everybody says, that's it. That's
the one.
Now, it's one thing to say, okay, that's it, because it's worked in my life. But then now I had to go out and do the research, and I had to do the study of, okay, where have we seen this show up in people's lives? And what it ended up doing for me was I actually ended up redefining what complacency was, because like yourself, you're aware, and you start out saying, well, I know there's been times in my life when I've been complacent. But what about those times that you're rocking and rolling, things are going well, and you don't even realize that you're drifting? So in the book, I redefine complacency. And what I call complacency is a secret place of satisfactory success, a secret place. That place where we're like, it's good enough. It's good. I'm good at that. I've already done the work. I've already been through the grind. I've already been through the courses. I've done the certification. I'm proficient at this. And in fact, I'm being paid for this. I don't really need to work on that as much anymore. And what that leaves is a gap, Jordan. You see, you're good at it, but your potential's here, and that gap is greatness. And what I'm trying to do inside this book is pull you more towards your potential and close that gap between your good and your potential.
Well, it's been said that good is the enemy of great. And as our dear friend John Maxwell says, when you can afford to quit, you can't afford to quit. And you're helping people with the pursuit of greatness. Craig Rochelle was recently on our show, and he said that urgency is not our default mode. Mm-hmm. Complacency is. Yeah. You talk about this idea of early detection. Yeah. So Chris, how do we detect complacency? Because to your point, I think so often we're not aware that we are becoming complacent, right. and maybe we are good and we're not great. So how do we detect complacency?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really starts with intentional reflection. Intentional reflection is really where it starts, to even stop and wonder, where am I good? And when was the last time I went back and checked that? So I would say just simple as sitting down and taking inventory of life, not just in the area that you're doing good, but going, hey, where have I not put in the work where I used to put the work in? And that's obviously, it's usually an obvious place where we have that result. But I can tell you an example of when, it really showed up in my life and I went, oh my gosh, I'm complacent in this area. And it was when I went on a trip with John Maxwell. It was, it was a speaker's dream, man. We went all the way over to Cambodia, and it was me and John Maxwell on the agenda for about 2,500 people. No other speakers. It's me, John Maxwell. And, it's a great day. And right before that, Jordan, we go in and we meet the president of Cambodia, president of the country. Mm-hmm. So I'm coming out of there. I am feeling great, getting ready to go speak for 2,500 people. And I get up on stage and I'm delivering the content. Things go wrong. The remote's not working for the PowerPoint clicker. I'm speaking with an interpreter, and, there's a little bit of, bouncing back and forth because I hadn't heard this language before. The slides finally come up, and, in that language, they don't separate the language like in most countries that we speak in, and they have to combine the language. So it looked like somebody just took a Scrabble board, threw it up in the air, and that was my slide deck. And so,
oh my goodness,
I get through it, no big deal, and get done with the presentation. There's a line of people lined up, and everybody's telling me how great I did, the impact I made, and then I go and sit down with John Maxwell. And at dinner, I say, John, hey, give me some feedback on my talk today. And John gives me 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 points, 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. We're down to 10. And then, Jordan, there's 5 other people at the table. They start giving me feedback as well, too. And they think it's a brainstorming session.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Come on. I've been there.
Yeah, it's a brainstorming session now. But I went back that night and I looked at all the feedback. Now, Jordan, there wasn't a thing on there that I didn't know, that I didn't do in the past. But here's the thing. I've given thousands of presentations. I speak every single week without fail. And I did not prepare for that presentation like I did years ago to go speak at a Rotary Club or a Chamber of Commerce or just to go speak for a spaghetti dinner. And here I was with this opportunity, something that I'm skilled at, something that I get paid for, and I didn't prepare for it like I should have because I do it a lot. And so in that moment, I go, oh my goodness, I'm drifting. I'm drifting on the very thing that I say that I want to do well. And so that was a wake-up call for me to say, hey, man, this is detected. It could have gone much, much further. Had I not had that intervention with, I call it intervention.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
That feedback in that moment from someone that was further ahead of me on this journey, how much further would I allow the drift to happen in my life, without that feedback? So one, it's self-reflection, trying to catch it before somebody else catches it. And two, surrounding yourself with people that you can receive feedback from is critical. Yeah. Not just anybody, all right, but people that love you, people that you trust, that can speak into your life, that can truly help you. Make sure that you keep your foot on the pedal and don't drift off.
Well, there's such wisdom in what you just shared, Chris, because you are a charismatic, gifted, talented communicator. And as we all know, we can rely on our gifts.
Yeah.
Too much, and it puts us in a bad spot. And you can get away with not preparing and winging it. And people tell you it's good. And that's the problem, right? That's the whole problem. And that's what John's saying is like, hey, Chris, you can wing it or you can work at it. Man, just work at it.
Right.
Because you have such a gift. And we need some leaders to hear that today. They have a gift and God's asking you to steward your gift so that you can be great, not just good. And I love that about this book, that you want people to be intentional with the gifts that they've been given. You have a 7-step framework. We're going to dig into the framework and get practical and help some leaders in preventing drift. So talk to us about the 7-step framework.
Yeah, well, the 7-step framework, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. And you go through this cycle when you're trying to progress in any area of your life. Now, this cycle works inside your business. It works with your family. It works with your relationships. I mean, as I look back at it, Jordan, I became a certified teaching pro in pickleball. And guess what? I use the 7 steps if I went back and looked at it. Like this is it.
I love it.
So the first step in there is clarity. All right. You have to be crystal clear on what it is that you want. Every single time that you've been clear, you've reached it every single time. And any time that you're in a drift, life is foggy. And so you want to be clear. So the first thing that we have to do is really assess and really ask one simple basic question. And we can ask one simple basic question that can help remove the clutter to give you that 2020 vision. That one simple question is, what do I want? Okay. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. But when you can take out a notepad and a paper and just simply write across the top, what do I want? And you don't fill that thing up. It's 2, 3, 4 things. It now becomes very easy for everything to begin to line and move in that direction. So we have to get clear. The second step is we now have to gather. And this is the phase where you're going to gather information about what it is that you want to grow in. So in the particular scenario with the intervention that I had with John, it was like, okay, I got to go back. I got to go back and I got to go back to the foundation. So I begin to gather. I begin to gather books. I begin to gather videos. I begin to gather audio. I begin to gather courses to help me fine tune even the most basic stuff. I got to go back to put some patchwork on the foundation. And if it's something brand new, you got to gather it to build the foundation. So we have to gather the information.
Come on.
The third step is filtering. And this, because the trap of the gathering phase is because a lot of people love to just gather information, and then now it's, I got to know from A to Z. But the third step helps break that through filtering. And so in the past, your success was really based upon the information that you had access to. It was based upon, in the early 1900s, it was illegal for people to read. And if you go a little bit further, it was so difficult for people to get into college. And now at our fingertips, we have access to all the information in the world, which is great. But if you don't know how to filter what's useful and from what's distracting, you're going to get lost inside that sea. So we have to filter the information. We teach you that. We teach you how to layer the learning. Because if you go back to the books, the videos, the audios, the courses, those things, what will happen is, and this happens, Jordan, tell me if you've been guilty of this ever, but you're reading a book on one topic, you're watching videos on another topic, you listen to audios or podcasts on another topic, you're taking a course on something else, and you're going to a conference for something else as well too.
Yes, been there.
Right. But if we layer all those things to line up and we filter it properly, we move through the content and we move through the skill development so much faster. The fourth step inside this cycle is guidance. And that is learning from someone that's ahead of you. I see you do this so well, Jordan. And every single time I see you with someone that has been doing this longer than we've been doing this, I'm going, oh man, Jordan gets it. Because there's some things that are taught and there's some things that are caught. There's things that you can learn from John Maxwell in a book, but there's things that you're going to learn from John Maxwell by being in proximity, by being around John Gordon in proximity, by being around Ed Milet in proximity. There's things that you pick up that there's no way possible that they put in a book, that they put in a video, that you just get to pick up. So having guides in your life in whatever area, whether it's pickleball, whether it's, relationship. I mean, my goodness, there's Fortnite coaches.
Yeah.
There's somebody,
man. Yeah.
There's somebody that can guide you. But then the fifth step And again, Jordan, when I'm seeing this now, I'm watching your Facebook feed in my mind. I see you do so many of these so well. But this fifth step is relationships. And it's not just any relationship and being around just successful people, but it's being around like-minded people moving in the direction that you want to go. Because I remember very early on in my career, I was around a great group of successful people. And I remember we would meet, we would mastermind, we would help each other out on each other's businesses. And one time I came up to share what I was doing, and they did not give any feedback. And nobody had anything to say about how to help a coach, speaker, or trainer. And I mean, I went out there, Jordan, I was hurt. Friend of mine, best friend of mine, puts his hand on my shoulder and says, Chris, what you shared up there was awesome, but I believe you're in the wrong room. And he was 100% correct, because when I got around other speakers, coaches, and trainers and people that were moving in our direction, now it was life-bringing because we were moving in the same direction and thought. So relationships is that next key. The next step is action, right? And nothing happens. You have to turn plans into progress by consistently taking action. And if you want to shortcut this whole process, it looks like this. Know what you want, learn a little bit, do a little bit. All right?
That's good. Know what you want, learn a little bit, do a little bit.
A little bit, right? You're going to be a whole lot further than just learning. And then the seventh step, Jordan, is evaluation. And that's reflecting on your progress through honest self-assessment to make sure that you're staying aligned, focused, and just fueled to move forward. And then you enter back into that cycle with a much clearer picture of what you want. And that cycle goes faster and faster every single time. So, man, I love this topic. I love this book, and I love how it's going to help people.
Well, I love that you're giving people practical tools, that they can easily apply. We always say, if you don't define it, people won't do it. I think, Chris, you have so clearly defined the steps toward attacking and declaring war on complacency. I want to ask you some questions about coaching, and then we'll come back to the book. But just real quick, I think we have so many listeners who are going, okay, we got the executive VP of Maxwell Leadership. I mean, this is the guy, team, if you're listening, this is the guy that spearheads the largest coaching company in the world. And so as you talk about these things, whether it's reflection of relationships, layered learning, like you're teaching this stuff around the world, not just in your new book, but literally all day, every day around the world through speaking and mentoring. And so if we pull back the curtain and you were to share maybe one or two principles, things that you've learned from John Maxwell, things that you've learned from being part of the Maxwell leadership, maybe even some things that have inspired this new book, From Drift to Drive. What would you share with our audience about maybe a learning or something that maybe not everybody knows about Maxwell leadership?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think, I'd say that I live in a bubble, a leadership bubble, because that's all we talk about day in and day out.
Yeah, you're in it, man. You're in it.
And, and I have a real simple philosophy when it comes to leadership, and it's really simple. I share it often, but it's treat people like people and adults like adults. If we do that, you will lead well. And when I say, treat people, this is all people, ALL, value all people, not just people that could do something for you, people in position. I think one of the greatest things that I saw, that I learned from proximity from John Maxwell was one of the very first times I played golf with him. And, we were playing golf and we were, hitting shots, but every couple holes, I would see John Maxwell off with the groundskeepers. Now, anybody that plays golf knows the groundskeepers are to, they cut their mowers off when anybody comes near. They're not to be seen. They're not to be talked to. That's kind of the mentality on the golf course. But I seen John going up and talking to every single groundskeeper that he passed. They weren't just a fixture. And I thought, man, that's interesting. But it wasn't just that he was just going over to say hi. What he was also doing was he was going over and he was tipping the groundskeepers. Now, come on. when was the last time you tipped the groundskeeper, Jordan? I mean,
haven't done it. Never.
I had never done it up until that point. And I'm going, wow. I said, John, what are you doing there? He says, I love tipping the groundspeople. I said, well, why? He goes, because nobody does it. He goes, it's common to tip the caddy. It's common to tip the cart girl. It's common to tip, around, the waiters inside the room. He says it's uncommon to tip the groundspeople. And I thought, oh my goodness, what an example of just valuing all people, not just who we're supposed to, in quotes, value. And so it's things like that, again, something that's caught and not taught, but treat all people like people and adults like adults, and you will lead well.
So wise. And I just want to say firsthand that I have felt that from you and the Maxwell leadership team. Every time I'm at an event, every time I'm in your presence, I just feel like you take the time to really see me and invest in me in a real way. And, I think we serve a God who sees. Yeah. But it begs the question, are we a people who sees? Do we see the things that God sees? And I love that John takes time to see people. And Chris, you take time to see people.
Yeah.
And I noticed that.
Jordan. I love it. And other thing I would add to that is treat all people well, because you never know who they're going to become. And I think about, very early in my career, the, companies and organizations that I work with now and still do consulting work with, or they call from time to time, these were people that were sales reps on the telephone, a decade ago. These were people that, couldn't show up on time for work, but now they're leading companies and organizations. Like, we do not know who people are going to become. So that's why we have to treat all people well at all levels, because we never know, who they will become.
Yeah, you're right, Chris, in that it's not just the right thing to do. It's actually a strategy for winning with people, right? Like, to your point, I think when you honor people, it produces access, it's easy to honor the high level leader or the person that can open the big door or help you with an opportunity. But to just have a spirit that says, you know what, God sees this person first and foremost. I want to do the right thing, but also, maybe this person will end up in a position where we could be collaborative someday. So hey, you published your book From Drift to Drive with Maxwell Publishing. The Maxwell Leadership label is on the book. Could you just tell us a little bit about Maxwell Publishing and give us a window into, we have a lot of people speaking who either have written a book, listening, not speaking, people listening today that have either written a book already or they would like to write a book. Talk to us real quick about Maxwell Publishing.
Yeah, well, Maxwell Publishing, it's brand new. It's about a year old, year and a half. And that was a shift from John Maxwell leaving a traditional publisher to say, hey, you know what? I've sold, 30 million books. I think I can go ahead and do this now. And so he started the organization. And now on the past year, we're producing a ton of books that are coming through Maxwell Leadership. So we have a partnership with great distributors. And we've just got a team that just knows what they're doing behind books. For goodness sakes, it's John Maxwell's publisher. And so it's really been great. Seeing how the organization has grown and developed in that space. And I love to see how it's opening up doors for people that want to go through that publishing process that don't quite know, the ins and outs of it. Myself, this being the first time book for me as well, too, just truly, again, having that guidance, having that relationship there has truly made this a lot smoother process versus trying to figure this thing all out on my own.
Well, I'm telling you, I see this book already making a huge impact, and our audience should know this, Chris. It's already sold multiple thousands of copies.
Yes, it has.
And it will be a bestseller. So just excited to see the splash. John Maxwell has written the foreword. Correct. And I can speak firsthand that when you have the Maxwell Leadership label on your book, it changes things. Yeah. What would you like people to know about this book that they might not know? So if they haven't already picked it up, ordered it, maybe they're hearing from Chris Robinson for the first time, what would you love people to know about From Drift to Drive?
Yeah, it really is a guide at the end of the day, and that's the way I believe about all books, is that books are for reading, but they're really for reference. And this is going to be a book that you're going to be able to pick up time and time again throughout your life. This won't be a one-time read, but this will be a tool that you'll be able to come back to make sure that you're fortifying your steps in your direction that you want to go. It also is a very revealing stories that I share in there as well too, that they may not know, things such as, standing before a judge, being told that I was going to be dead or in jail, having 2 DUIs before the age of 21. You would look at me today and go, oh my God, I wouldn't think that about Chris. But I mean, man, we talk openly about faith on here. God's a redeemer. And that was truly a turnaround story to where I was on a path to be dead or in jail. And the judge told me. And man, I decided to go another direction. But I shared numerous stories in there about my personal growth journey and things that I endured in order to get to where I am today. Yeah.
Well, listen, you are a person who's walking by faith.
Yeah.
And you are valuing all people. You're declaring war on complacency. John says the best message you deliver is the one that you live.
Yeah.
And I see you walking your talk, Chris. So I want to encourage you in that today.
Thank you.
And I want to say thanks for loving on our listeners and sharing wisdom and insight. And I'm excited, man, just to spend more time with you. I really am. I mean, you're such a joy to be around. Infectious smile. Maybe you can't see Chris right now. If you're listening, you're driving down the road, but this guy just has infectious energy. If you were to leave our listeners with some final thoughts or a leadership message, what would it be?
Yeah, a final thought for you, I guess, from a leadership perspective is, be a life learner. If you want to stamp out complacency in your life, it's a life of growth. It's a life of learning. And I love your title, man. It is 100% growth over goals.
Come on. It's the truth. And you're living that out. Hey, where do people find the book? Where can they find the book, Chris?
They can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. But if they want the bonuses that we have in place right now, you can go to drifttodrivebook.com.
Hey, we're going to put that link in the show notes so you can pick up the book From Drift to Drive. This book will be a bestseller. It's already sold thousands of copies. We have just spent time with the executive VP of Maxwell Leadership, the largest coaching company in the world. And this guy, Chris Robinson, spearheads this initiative and this mission. Man, you're a gift to us. You're a gift to the world. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery, and I want to say thanks again for being with us today. Thanks again to John Choate and his team at Storyline Multimedia for all that they do behind the scenes to make these episodes go. Be well, be great. Have an amazing day.